Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on January the 2nd, 2024. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, he was on stage, my stage.
Ew, bad touch, bad touch. Caffeine rage, bad touch.
Right. On today's show, we're going to be having a probably fairly short one. We're going to be discussing our December Game Club, which is Wartales. We're going to tell you what the Game Club is for January, and that's it, aside from potentially some banner, some jokes, and some bullshit.
Some bullshit?
Yeah. Timestamps will be in the show notes, following their respective couple of topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How are you today?
And we could always do a discovery queue, you know.
We could. We'll see what time it is. It's 10:30 as we begin this recording process. We got a bunch of Franken content, telling some stories. I was telling some stories about my holidays, and we were looking at the Steam Game Awards winners. Some pointing and laughing. And you might think, well, why isn't that regular content for the show? And that would be a good question, dear listener. A good question indeed. But it won't be. It'll be Franken content for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks from now, maybe. We've still got some of the backlog. Like, we had built up a lot of Franken content. And then if I really wanted to cheat, I could pull some other stuff from, like, my D&D.
Probably higher quality content because I'm not there.
Yeah, I don't know about that. A lot worse microphones, but I could pull some of my D&D stuff because I record all of my sessions for note-taking purposes, and I've got all those just kicking around. There's a few funny moments in there, like the one which I mentioned and has now gone up as Franken content about the two, like, dumb characters getting trapped in a puzzle room by themselves. How they essentially just like buffooneried their way through a series of puzzles. I mean, it worked for them, so, you know, but...
Broken clock,
exactly. But yeah, do you do... I don't remember this, because it only comes up once a year. Do you do New Year's resolutions?
No. About resolutions to not do resolutions. Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I'm all about people making changes in their life, but the idea of resolutions is like, well, if you want to make a change, then start making the change. Don't wait for an arbitrary start date. Start doing what you can today. I mean, you know, if it just so happens to be the new year, then great. But, you know, don't decide in September or whatever, like, I should do this, and then wait until January to start it as a New Year's resolution. Just start it. This has been Therapy Life Advice with Jared. Don't wait to make changes. But yeah, I'm not a New Year's resolution guy either. I mean, I have some things that I want to kind of improve this year, but they were things that I was already starting to work on. Getting back into some physical activity, making sure that I continue to take care of my health, fixing my insurance bullshit from this past year. But I was already doing those things.
Oh, I'm building up a little bit of a nest egg, but yeah, I've been doing that for like 2 months now.
Well, I know what you mean. I just picture you over there, like, building up a horde, like a dragon's horde of, like, cooking gear.
Hey, you helped out with that.
Old cookbooks. I did. I contributed to the horde.
Which I may pass one on because I have the next version of it.
That's fine.
If you don't mind.
Next
the Cook's Country one.
One of the cookbooks? Okay.
The Cook's Country one, I have the one that is the year after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Pass them on. Like, I found those. I didn't pay anything for those. I just saw them and thought of you.
And I really wish I wasn't heading to work when I went to Goodwill just after that. Because I saw the Jeff Foxworthy board game. And first of all, I didn't realize Jeff Foxworthy made a board game. Or signed off on a board game, contracted a board game, whatever. But I
said that like it was a disease, contracted board game.
Well, yeah. You go too close to a couple of dirty stores, it might contract a board game.
Ooh, that didn't really fit with you. Might be a redneck, but anyway, sorry. Carry on.
But it was like held together with tape, and I just took a picture of the front, and I wasn't sure, if it had everything in it, and I just knew by the time I got it home, it would have been utterly destroyed.
Yeah.
So, that was a catch and release. But I really wish I would have, hey, Anita, can you drop by the store? I have something for you to pick up, but...
And for the listener, for Christmas, I always find stuff to send you, and over the years it's changed as I've gotten a little more money or had a little more time to go looking for random things. And I sent you a shitload of cookbooks.
Yeah,
most of them,
community cookbooks.
Yeah, most of them church community cookbooks from my local area.
And I have a soft spot for community cookbooks.
Yeah,
they're just so random at times. I've only gone through a couple of them so far. One of them, actually, the group is intriguing. It's like this group insurance thing that they built up, that was built up in the late 1900s. And it's continued on to present day, although it's morphed over time. It's what the hell is this?
Yeah. But, the Jeff Foxworthy thing, in case somebody listening doesn't know, Jeff Foxworthy is a comedian, a Southern comedian. I'm not sure how old he is at this point. I'm guessing in his
he's
late 60s. Old. Yeah. But he's a comedian that I grew up with, given that I'm from the deep South. Nothing like a good old boy doing comedy. And I've watched some of his older stuff, and for me, I feel like it still holds up more or less. I mean, he's no George Carlin, but he's
nobody
a comedian.
is.
Nobody else is, But so that's where that comes from.
Yeah, we had just talked about it, and then I saw that. That Goodwill gets some weird shit. One thing I was also tempted to get at one point, they had a sock monkey, alright?
A sock monkey? Like a puppet?
Oh, well, stuffed animal.
Okay.
And it was 4 feet tall.
Okay.
I was very tempted to get it and just, carry it on my back to work. It's this is George. He's going to be my sous chef for today.
That would have been hilarious.
I sat there, can I explain this?
Should you explain it?
What monkey?
Yeah. What monkey are you talking about? I don't have a monkey.
And it was $10 too. I ended up not getting it and then regretting it. Went back and it was gone. Which, hopefully some kid got it,
Hopefully George went to a good home. Did you get much else for Christmas from other people?
Not really. My big thing, which I'll go more in depth later on, was a combined birthday and Christmas present from Anita. I got a Steam Deck.
Yeah. Woo.
So now it's the low memory one, so I'm going to be cracking it open before long.
Yeah. Your and I's big presents went in two very different directions, because I got a chainsaw, which I'm extremely happy. I have been, every year about this time I go, well, I say every year, this is only the second winter we've lived in this house, but, last year there's a lot of woods on the back of our property, and dead trees and storm damage and stuff, and I go back and I chop it up. And last year I literally chopped it up with an axe because my chainsaw broke. And so I got a new chainsaw this year. So this weekend I'm going to be out in the fucking woods cutting up trees, cutting up lumber.
Woo.
But yeah, that's my big Christmas present this year. I got some small stuff. The kid got me a coffee mug. It's a narwhal mug, which is very cute. I took it to work. It says something like, don't talk to me before you can see the bottom of this mug, otherwise I'll stab you with my face, or something like that. I was given some candy, which, give the diabetic candy. Yeah. And then some dice sets. For local tabletop games and stuff. So I'm now up to 12 sets of dice. And when I say sets of dice, I mean, the whole shebang to be able to play Dungeons and Dragons. So That's pretty good.
Yeah, on top of the Steam Deck. Well, I got a couple things for the house. Like a couple nice giant blankets, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I bought. Of course, the cookbooks, and I got a frying pan from you.
Indeed.
And it's such a beautiful little cast iron pan. It was actually in a size I was thinking about. I have one that's a bit smaller and 3 that's bigger, and it fits perfectly on my induction countertop burner. So it's coming quite handy. I still have one Christmas present I need to deliver. Probably going to be this weekend. Just haven't been out to my mother-in-law's house. I got her a wok. She's really into cast iron, so I thought a carbon steel wok would actually work well with what she how she handles things as like a bigger essentially skillet.
Yeah.
And now going to regift a cookbook.
Are you gonna give it to her?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, she's a country chef, so that or a country cook, I should say. So it's going to be like perfect for her. I'm going to give her the older version.
Merry Christmas, Rachel's mother-in-law. Yeah, I approve of regifting. I like it when people don't waste things.
Yeah, I just didn't want to, just have it sitting on the shelf because it's literally, as far as I can tell, like one chapter more or one chapter less than the version I had.
Yeah.
So, be free. Go to the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I still need to, like I said, go through the other community cookbooks because you can find some wild shit.
Yeah, and I don't know what's in any of them. I didn't preview any of them. So,
well, the one I read the most was the one that from the insurance group, and it's from 1983 or 1984. So almost as old as me. Not quite, but it doesn't have to get off my lawn, but stay off the grass.
Right. And
it seems like pretty standard, like 1980s fare. But every so often, it's like a little bit of an odd name for something. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Like more personalized names, I guess I should say, for recipes. Like Stephanie's casserole, or instead of what's actually in it, right?
Yeah. Stephanie's casserole.
I mean, I haven't seen anything outrageous in this one. I have a sorority cookbook from the '60s that your brother-in-law would love this cookbook. It's all meat and there's hardly any seasoning.
Yep.
It's from the '60s, before they invented flavor. Yeah, I found that one at a rummage sale shortly before the world went to shit. Well, okay, I guess I should specify which version of going to shit, because I'm 41, so it's going to shit quite a few times in my lifetime.
Yeah, you get fucking old. Sometimes I forget that you're in your 40s, and then it hits me like, oh yeah, that's right.
Get off my fucking lawn.
I will. Yes, sir. Oh, all right. We've been we've been chatting, but I feel like we're kind of like putting this off. Let's talk about this month's Game Club, which sounds so ominous. I don't think either of us hated it, but it's just kind of like, eh. But for the month of December, we picked a Game Club, which was on Game Pass, although you could have gotten it in many places. It is Wartales, a medieval turn-based strategy game, strategy/tactics game with some light RPG elements and some light survival elements thrown in, for good measure.
Yeah, I think the best way to say this is, it's not bad, but it's not outstanding either. It's mediocre, and that's possibly the worst thing that you could be for a game, is that it's just middling.
Yeah, it is pretty mediocre. It's got a few unique elements to it, or well, maybe not unique, but more unique or well executed elements. And I feel like its bones are pretty solid. So maybe if you, as glom onto some of the things that we bounced off a little bit, maybe if
or this builds up a decent modding community.
Yeah. It's got a lot to work with. The setting is fine. Turn-based medieval strategy warfare is something that's not done to death. And the way it's presented here.
And non-magical. I think that's going to be the kind of the big thing, is that so many of these medieval-ish games have some sort of magic to them. And while you do have your healing potions, it feels more like that's a convenience item for gameplay other than, like world building.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to deal with wizards or, elves or any of that bullshit. It's more like, I'm blanking on the hardcore medieval RPG that came out a couple years ago. First person.
Yeah, that was that was more than a couple of years ago. That was more than a couple years ago.
A few years ago, then. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I played it and talked about it, and I cannot remember the name of it. Medieval. I think it came out in 2018.
Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah, yep, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I think it came out in 2018.
Oh yeah, 2018. Pandemic time fucks with you. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean everything is always kind of timey-wimey, but that's especially timey-wimey.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a couple of instances that I ran into that it's like, oh, is this a witch? And then it's like, no, it's just like some charlatan or a, like no magic. So they've kind of played with that trope at least a couple of times, but yeah, no, non-magical.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. There is a story that exists in the world that you're playing in. You can kind of ignore it if you want to. Although if you want to progress, you have to engage with at least the basic story stuff.
Yeah, which good luck finding it, for me at least.
I find that interesting. I
don't know if I just went in the wrong direction. If I was just, ended up accidentally going in circles. But I went a good 10 hours before I hit any story beats.
Yeah.
Or if I just had bad luck. Or I just didn't interact with, the one guy, right?
Possibly. The UI is not super great for any of the out-of-combat stuff. So you start out, you build a mercenary company. It gives you a few starters that you can pick from, and there's some stuff that you can do to change them up a little bit. But by and large, at least for your first playthrough, you should pick one of the pre-made merc companies. And maybe just make a few tweaks to them. And then it plops you down in the world with some basic resources. You get a little bit of a tutorial about what to do. You get a quick tutorial battle and an introduction to food and maintenance of your weapons and gear and such as that. And then you're told, hey, there's a village nearby. Go to the village. And then that's kind of where the real game begins. And in the village, there are several places that you can go. There's a blacksmith shop, there's an apothecary, there's an inn, there's a market district. And in a few of those places, there are characters who will interact with you and give you missions that you can do. And a couple of those are story line missions, which lead you into the campaign stuff. Did you not run into any of those guys?
Or I just didn't go through all the dialogue, which is also a possibility. I must have just went over it.
Yeah, I guess. Because there's a guy in the marketplace that sets up a little side quest that it starts to teach you about professions. There's a couple of people in the
I didn't hit him. I'm not sure if it just kind of wandered off into the wilderness or what.
Yeah, there's a couple people in the inn. One of them is specifically a kind of like a quest giver guy.
I ended up doing a bit there to basically build up cash. The bounty guild person.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure if those are set quests, if they're randomly generated or what.
Well, so the bounty guy has got the first quest that leads you into the main story, because he tells you to go out to some caves and help some local guardsmen.
Yeah, I picked that up and I never did it.
Yeah, the game doesn't tell you that that's a main quest, but it is. Like, you go and you do that quest, and you get two options. You can either help the guards, like you're supposed to, or you can help the bandits. And either way, like, that's when you complete that quest, it pops up, like, missions 1 of 5 for the area. Mm-hmm. And you can flip-flop sides on that one, because it sets you up to either work for the bandits, the bandits, to work for the refugees, who everyone in the local area is like, yeah, these guys are terrorists, they suck, because they're refugees. Or you can work for the local government and clear out the refugees. Yeah,
which, boy, that is a little heavy-handed with current politics in the U.S., huh?
Yep. And surprise, surprise, the local government pays better than the refugees.
I mean, kind of expected on that one.
Yeah. I wound up going with the local government route. Like, the game really does reinforce, like, hey, you're a mercenary company. Altruism will get you killed because you can't afford to pay or feed your people. And if you can't pay your people, your mercenary company disbands. I mean, not immediately. They start to build up, like, unhappiness, and then they will leave. And if you can't feed them, then they starve to death. So
there is permadeath.
There is permadeath. It's really hard to maybe later on in the game it gets easier. But in the beginning, it's really hard to take those refugee quests because they just can't pay you enough of anything, food or money. So, just for the sake of progressing the game, like, I did the missions that were for the local townspeople. And so you clear the mercenaries out, or not the mercenaries, you clear the bandits out, and then you track down a local sort of leader for the refugees, and you fight him and you kill him in battle, and then you track down a hideout of theirs, and you kill the people in the hideout, and then you chase down some remnants around the map, and then you get into, like, a final confrontation. It's like, these are the rest of the refugees, and you gotta fight them and defend the village. And I mean, it's fine. They're all fine missions. And I do like the open world map where you can kind of just march your mercenary band around.
Although I did hit a couple times. Sorry, I wanted to throw a thing on the world map. I hit a couple times where it looked like I should be able to walk through a place, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's just, like, bad level geometry, an invisible wall, or what, but yeah, there was a couple times I was like, why can't I go up this hill when the path that is over there is actually steeper and more treacherous?
Yeah. Nope, that does happen a few times. You're right. But you can run into random encounters. Like, for example, I ran into a roving bandit group, but they would leave me alone because I didn't have, like, I hadn't joined a particular faction. And so they would be like, oh, do you support these people? I'd be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And they'd be like, okay, we'll go on before we hurt you. And I could just, like, keep interacting with them as long as I picked that dialogue option. I didn't have a reputation for being a part of whatever group. And then I ran into a knight who was being attacked by wild boars and wolves. Helped him out. Ran into a few situations with random bandits and things. But I kind of like that. I like that exploration because you can find a prison, and let's talk about the economy actually for a minute. The game, because it is doing the whole, you have to keep your mercenary company going with food and equipment and money to pay your people to keep their gear going and to keep their bellies fed. You have to have ways to make money. And certainly doing jobs is a way to get some money, but that is, at least in the first village, the jobs are not enough to fully sustain you. So you have to find other ways to make money. And the few other ways that you can make money, later on, you're able to trade between the main villages of the different map points. And then you can, obviously, like any loot that you find, you can sell it. You can do some fishing. You can sell loot you get from fishing. You can sell the alchemy that the potions that you make as an alchemist. But I think the main way that it wants you to earn money in the beginning of the game is to capture people instead of killing them and take them to the jail for bounties to ransom off your prisoners. But you have to like find the prison. I don't think it tells you where it is. At least I stumbled upon the prison accidentally. That was a pretty neat mechanic, although until you get them there, you got to feed them. Mm-hmm. So it's like pros and cons. But yeah, so the game, the light RPG elements come from you having a few different classes, sort of main classes, and then as you level up, you can specialize into subclasses. So your 6 main classes are Swordsman, Warrior, Spearman, Brute, Ranger, and Archer. And then they have subclasses. For example, the Swordsman has 3. You can be a Protector, a Fighter, or a Swordmaster. And they each get sort of different things. Think of them as like things that they are proficient with or able to do, and then they get little special abilities, which we'll get into that in a minute. So each of these has got several different subclasses that they can go into. And you want to have a relatively balanced mercenary company. You can also but get animals that help you fight. I never got any animals, though.
Okay, I did get a couple animals. I'm torn on those because they are not player controllable directly. They're run essentially by the AI, which... Oh, the AI in this game.
The AI really sucks.
We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
But the Ranger class gets an ability to somewhat direct them. But, it's, go bite that in the ass.
Right. So, I had 1 swordsman, 1 warrior. The swordsman, the warrior, they kind of do the same thing. They're frontline. Yeah, they're frontline damage dealer, tanky type of people. And the swordsman focuses on swords, and the warrior gets axes, and some specialization based on that. But at the start of the game, they do basically the same thing. And then spearmen are kind of a little bit of jack of all trades. Like historically, the spear was one of the most well-rounded and useful weapons in combat. Because it had some reach, you could throw it, you could kind of choke up on it and use it in close quarters, you could use it with a shield. So spearmen are like jack of all trades. Brute, which is like think like barbarian or something from tabletop. They're like they get up close and they do a lot of damage, and they've got kind of area of effect, crowd control type things. And then the ranger and the archer. And the ranger is like your sneaky character, and the archer is an archer. Mm-hmm. I had one archer.
Which archer's friendly fire is in play.
Fire is in play.
So you have to be very careful about the positioning on archers. And sometimes you have to be more careful than what you think on just how wild the archers can be.
Yeah.
Whenever you aim, there's a % chance that you'll hit one thing or the other. And I found that you basically have to be like at not quite 90 degrees, but I would say 80-ish, maybe 75, to completely eliminate the chance to hit someone that that target is fighting.
Yeah,
it just feels like too narrow of a band for the scale of things. And if you hit a friendly player, well, it starts a bit of a conflict between them because their relationship goes down. There is a relationship factor going on between different mercenaries in your group. And I never got far enough to really trigger anything noticeable about it.
However, I never did either. I was really careful, though, with my friendly fire.
Yeah. They're looking at some of the skills that you could get later on. Like drinking buddies, and that sort of thing. It sounds like it drastically improves their happiness if they're working together, which makes them easier to deal with overall. But Yeah, archers felt almost like a bit of a sucker's pet if you had too many.
Yeah. I had one swordsman, one warrior, one spearman, one ranger, and one archer.
I had an archer, a warrior, a swordsman. I had one. I had one with a two-handed sword and one with a sword and shield. A spearman, and I had a fifth guy, and I can't think of what he was. I want to think like a rogue or a thief or something, because he had a dagger and did a bunch of poison abilities.
That's probably the ranger, because the ranger gets the cutthroat and the poisoner, which both do that.
Which whenever I think ranger, I think bow and arrow for whatever reason.
Yeah, but no but yeah. Which, as far as classes go, it makes sense. Every time you level up, you get some basic stat upgrades, and you want to lean into the stats for what your character is good at, so that they will be better at that. You get increased health, more damage, and you unlock abilities which you can use in combat, which, again, we'll talk about in a minute. So those are the classes, and then there's this other thing where that you can have your people get professions, which give bonuses, some of them in combat or out of combat, and some of it is more passive, and some of it is more direct action. Like, for example, well, I'll just read all the professions: tinkerer, angler, blacksmith, alchemist, cook, thief, scholar, and miner, as in like mining ore and stuff. So cooking has got a bonus outside of combat to where that your people make better food, and so you can get more for less in terms of you don't have to spend as much food to be able to feed your people every day. And as they level up in their cooking skill, that can provide bonuses to the rest of your people. Mm-hmm. And different recipes give you different bonuses, which cook is a really good one. Blacksmith is a good one because it lets you craft items. Tinkerer has some usefulness. You can craft a few things like lock picks, but mostly Tinkerer reduces how much materials you have to spend to maintain your equipment. Angler is fishing, which can help you feed your people, and you can occasionally get like treasures out of the water. But for the most part, that's like it's B tier. Like, if your mercenary company gets big enough, then it wouldn't hurt to have one angler, just so that it's like anytime you pass a lake or a river with a fishing spot, you could, fish some extra food. But it's definitely B tier.
Yeah, it was frustrating whenever you only had a handful of catches that you could do.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. Tinkerer and Angler, I would say, are B tier. Blacksmith is weird. You could totally avoid the system, but I think what you can craft as a blacksmith is better than what you can find or buy in the world. Cooking is pretty much a non-negotiable. Those bonuses are extremely useful. Alchemist, you can make the potions and poisons and other medicines in the game. Extremely useful. Need that. Thief lets you steal items and lets you pick locks. So, could be useful, but I don't think you have to engage with that part of the game. Scholar, you have to have a scholar. That's how you research new like class abilities and other things. Like, I mean, you have to have one. You can do some things without a scholar. It's not like you have no progress, because when you start the game, nobody has any profession. Mm-hmm. But scholar is like a must-have. And then miner, I mean, you can get ore, which is, it's B tier or C tier. Like, it's useful if you've got a big enough mercenary company. Or like, you can train into a job at any time. There's no cost other than sort of the inability to have another job unless you give it up. So whenever you run into this stuff in the world, you can have kind of like, like your B tier or your C tier bitch who changes back and forth between like maybe angler and mining, or, tinkerer, or, but you lose built up experience if you change professions. So, and I mean, that's it. Those are the professions and what they do. Basically, you have to engage with a couple of them to be able to really progress the game. But for the most part, you can take them or leave them. There are some good bonuses that come with a couple of them, but you don't have to engage with them. And this is where, like, the game has good bones, and this is like, well, okay, like this is a decent system. You could do more with this to make it more interesting or to make it more, applicable in some way. Like you could do more, and you didn't. So, I mean, all that's really left to talk about is combat and the things that revolve around combat.
I would say just the general progression too.
Okay.
Wherever you're, Starfield is. Well, we talked about this before recording, but Starfield has kind of scarred me on just how little I'm willing to deal with mechanics that feels like it's designed solely around wasting my time.
Yeah.
And this has a couple of those. So there's and I'm blanking what they actually call them, but essentially it's almost like an achievement system built into the game, where if you do certain things, you start building up points to spend there, which, yeah, okay, fine. But then you have the knowledge system, which as you do things in the world, you gain knowledge. You get points to unlock things. All right, great. Well, what can you unlock on this? You can unlock the ability for your mercenaries to sprint. Okay. You can unlock the ability for them to put waypoints on the map. All right. Or you can learn to make a fishing hook with your blacksmith or your tinker or whoever that one is. It feels very haphazard on what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And then that's just the one point of it. Then you could go down and, you're spending multiple points and you're, like reducing the amount of hunger that your mercenaries have. So, you'll be able to march further on the same amount of food or have it where they accept less pay but the thing is that it's tied also into the crafting system. And if you have multiple people running, necessary skills, you're going to hit a problem where, you're trying to deviate points that you just can't afford to put elsewhere.
Yeah. And some of those, like, there's a few that are situationally useful. Like, there's one where your party can get more food from cannibalism. Like, you can always engage in cannibalism. So anytime you kill somebody, you can keep their bodies in your inventory.
There's you have to unlock the skill for them to not get a massive debuff from it.
Right. That's what I meant. Sorry. But yeah, so you can engage in cannibalism kind of freely instead of just like as a survival tactic. All the bodies are really heavy. But yeah. So the AI is stupid. And some of the problems that exist with the AI would be fixed if you could just have control over your units. I didn't get any animal companions, but you saying that you can't control them. It's like, why? They're on my team. And I want to be able to use them in a way that's effective. There are some environmental things that exist.
Yeah, like maps. Spears or a bear trap in the ground or...
Yeah, I was going to say there are traps or certain environmental things, like in the first cave you go into, like there's a cave-in that can happen, and...
Or if you're fighting in bad weather, lightning could strike, Zeus saying, fuck this spot in particular.
Yeah. So, being able to, or not being able, rather, to control your units to deal with that is just awful. Because that means that they can either trigger traps, and you can't do anything about it, or be in the splash zone, basically. That's awful. And games solved this problem years ago. The XCOM games, there's probably others, but the XCOM are the easiest ones to point at, turn-based strategy games that, in XCOM, when there are missions where you have to protect people, you get to control the people that you're supposed to protect. And it's like, yes, they're weak and they're squishy, but you can move them at your pace and hide them. And that's just such an easy fix to me, so that you as the player don't have to contend with the brain dead AI. The enemies having brain dead AI can sometimes work to your advantage, or be really confusing because they're stupid and they make poor decisions. But you being punished for your friendly NPCs having bad AI is unsatisfying, very frustrating.
Yeah, that actually prevented me from getting a lot further in the game because once I finally got to the story quest for the region, the opening region, one of the ones I triggered was I'm up against, do I want to help the refugees or do I want the guards? Well, at this point, I've done quite a few bounties, so I'm, have a fair little nest egg. Little low on food, but I could go to town and buy food. So I decided, I'll help the refugees out. Get some wood because, who doesn't like a large amount of wood, right?
Right. Definitely like the wood.
So, start a fight and have to, it's a VIP mission. A classic and never, ever a frustrating experience. And you have to protect one guy in particular and keep him alive. I swear, I think he found every single way in that battle to get himself killed. At one point, one of the rangers or rogues or whatever put down a couple poison clouds, which is a fairly low-level ability. And his turn comes up, and he just waltzes right through them to try to, go stab the ranger in the face. And, gets a bunch of poison debuffs on him, and I don't have a way to cure that. And he goes from, full health to dead in, 2 turns. And I eventually just got fed up with it after 3 or 4 attempts at it. And the thing is that, these aren't, short attempts. Battle actually feels a bit sluggish in this game. And I know, it's turn-based. But everything just moves so slowly.
Oh, no, it's slow for a turn-based game.
Okay.
It is slow.
Okay. I'm glad it's not just me then.
It feels like, and I think playing, Baldur's Gate 3, while I'm playing this.
Damn you.
Right. Well, I think, this does reveal, because I didn't think anything about it. I haven't played a turn-based game other than BattleTech in a while, and BattleTech is me playing it laden down with so many mods. It slows it down a lot anyways. Because the computer's got to think a lot more, and animations take longer, and there's just only so much you can do when you've got enough mods, mods that are the same size as the game install, sitting on top of it, so I don't really think about it. But comparing this to something like Baldur's Gate 3, which is also turn-based kind of tactical combat, everything it just takes a second. Everything just seems like it takes a second or two. You click on something, and then you just wait for just a second. And it those seconds add up, and then the AI seems to for being as dumb as they are, sometimes it feels like they really take their sweet ass time. And then the movement is slow, the attack animations are slow, and
it's all just slow enough that doesn't really feel slow until you have to go through the same battle several times.
Yeah. So. In combat, though, I mean, it's your standard turn-based fare. You've got a certain amount of movement that your characters have, and that can grow based on their stats or change based on their gear or certain abilities that they can get, which we're almost there.
Or how muddy it is.
Yeah, or how muddy the ground is, or certain other environmental effects that can change your movement. So you've got that, you've got movement, and then you can attack. And as you level up or get abilities, you might be able to attack multiple times in a turn. It just depends. But you can attack. You can use items, which there are items on the battlefield that things like hatchets or spears that you can utilize as part of one of your actions on a turn. But also there are items that you can use from your inventory, your potions, your antidotes, other things that you can get that you can deploy or use in the middle of battle. And then you have your abilities. Each character has got a certain amount of points, and I cannot remember right off the top of my head what these are called, where that you can spend on using your special class abilities.
Well, don't forget, you also have the ability to start with a couple of them.
You do. Yeah, you start with a couple of them. But during battle, you earn more of these by completing special actions. There might be one that it's like, if your character gets a killing blow, then he generates a point where that he can spend it on one of his special abilities. Or if you start your turn next to an ally after, backstabbing, like as the rogue or ranger, whatever. Or if you take so much damage in a round or block an attack. Like there's a bunch of little trigger conditions to get these points back. And then they let you use your special abilities, which are, they might be like a special charge attack, or it might be like an aimed shot that's guaranteed to not hit an ally, or one of the like poison cloud things. Certain weapons can just do that, but maybe like you throw a smoke bomb or a poison bomb, or rally your allies and they gain a little bit of health back because they feel inspired, or stuff like that. There's a decent amount of special moves, and these for the most part can be really useful turning the tide of battle. I don't know what sort of the recommended size is for mercenary companies, but I stuck kind of to 5. And for general combat, that's fine. Some of the special missions or some of the story missions can throw more people at you so that you're feeling a little overwhelmed. And in those moments, those abilities can really turn the tide of battle. That little bit of extra health might be the line between life and death for one of your people, or that extra attack that you can get by using that ability might be just enough to kill somebody and even the playing field. So they can make a difference, but also there are lots of times when they don't feel like, where I don't feel like using them, because there's no magic. Pros and cons. Like, one of the cons of not having magic is it's like these abilities are not super flourishy, not super, special. They're not connected to any kind of magic or gods or whatever. So it's like everything is like, we'll just do a little more damage or have just a little bit more utility, which makes a difference, but can be really boring.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I think if they just added a little bit more flourish to it, and I'm not even talking about particle effects. I'm just talking about make it so that it's a little bit more flashy. Like one of the fighters I have, his skill that he has right now is essentially a triple strike. And if he crits, he'll give himself Rampage, which is a fairly decent damage boost. But the animation for it is literally just him, doing a weak-ass swing of the sword 3 times instead of like any real like flourish or flashy movement.
Yeah,
and the tooltip of it, makes it sound like this. Really badass, difficult to do move. It's like, and, whenever you see it used in combat, and it just didn't really, click with me with that until you brought it up. That, it just doesn't really sell it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be over the top. You don't have to be overly flashy. But whenever you take magic out of a world, with this level of technology, you have to make up for it somewhere to try to sell the combat, right?
Yeah, I think,
and this just didn't do it.
I have no evidence for this, right? This is just kind of my speculation based on my other thoughts and feelings on the game. I feel like there was a design decision made at some point, like a deliberate design decision to be like, okay, we're going to try to be fairly realistic with this. And fancy combat flourishes were not used very often in regular combat. They were mostly used for, sparring, dueling, exhibition kind of stuff. So we're not going to have these guys be big, flashy combatants who are doing really cool, elegant sword strikes or swings. And I can understand that, but it really no-sells the effect of the combat. And when you don't have magic, when you don't have guns, when you don't have anything else to add to or shift the focus to, you just got guys wailing on each other with swords and clubs. You need a little more. Because I don't feel like this game is lazy. I don't think it's bad. I don't feel like it's lazy. There were some things where they had some misses. But like overall, it's like a pretty okay game that feels maybe a little average, but like it doesn't feel like, put together like garbage. It doesn't feel like a scam. So I feel like it was deliberate, like because it doesn't feel incompetent.
Yeah, and kind of the problem with that is that, um, every time I play this, I'm just sitting here thinking about Mountain Blade, which, no, it's not story based, but the thing is that the world built its own stories, and I'm talking about the old Mountain Blade, not the new one that came out fairly recently. That is basically just more advanced. I haven't done enough time with it to really be able to deep dive into the systems.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting here thinking about, while it doesn't have the like interplay of mercenary, your individual mercenaries, partially because of just the scale of it, well, the world felt so much more alive because you saw the movement of troops, countries bickering about one another. And the game built essentially its own like immersive stories through that, instead of, oh, we really hate refugees.
Yeah,
and I get it. Refugees, especially in medieval times, are like the ultimate scapegoat, right?
Yeah,
but it's just, without the proper world building, and maybe I missed this. It. Oh, hang on. Oh, be right back.
Yep. Welcome back. Everything okay? That sounded like a fire alarm.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the smoke detector went off. So I went. Adhere was asking, "Are you done?" No, I'm going to sit here and burn to death.
Yeah, if it's a real fire.
So yeah, I think it's just dusty, and we need to dust.
Yeah.
Where both of us are working, and my weekend is offset by one day. Basically, I'm like recovering on Friday, Anita's recovering on Saturday, and then I go back to work on Sunday.
Yeah.
So honestly, do need to dust, and the smoke detector in the pantry / what's supposed to be a dining room has like a hair trigger. It's one of those, right?
Yeah.
And they're hooked together, so the one in the dining room sets off the one in the living room, and the one in the living room just goes nuts. And good in theory, but whenever it has a false alarm, right?
Yeah. So
so we were talking about combat.
Yeah. We had kind of the last thing that you were saying was like, it doesn't really present itself very well. It's very lackluster, and we had kind of been discussing how that it doesn't really. It seems like it's a deliberate choice to try to go for sort of a realism sake thing as opposed to incompetence.
Yeah. I think if you really get into this game, this is if this is your jam, it's going to be amazing for you. But the thing is that for everyone else, it doesn't really. Or I guess I shouldn't say for everyone else, because we aren't the general audience, obviously.
Yeah.
It's it's an uphill battle. How about that?
Yeah.
And there does seem to be a bit more, modding community building up around this, actually, or at least it has a couple pages of mods on Nexus mods,
which is good to have a little bit of modding support. I haven't looked at Nexus mods. I don't even really consider it. Not that it wouldn't be worth modding, but like I just
Well, I was trying to go in stock, and part of what I was playing was also going to be something I talk about in a week or two. Since I have the Steam Deck set up, I went up to Xbox Ultimate Game Pass.
Yeah.
And doing a little bit of the streaming as well. Which, this game, where it's so damn slow, is a really good candidate for game streaming.
Yeah. Although any turn-based game, more or less, is pretty good for game streaming. There could definitely be some turds out there for sure, but turn-based nature means that the inherent either instability or latency of streaming doesn't interfere too much with your gameplay experience.
I will say that Forza actually plays somewhat well with it. But Forza Horizon 5, I should say. But once again, mm,
Yeah.
uh, so it feels like we're just kind of circling at this point.
Pretty much.
It's very much not for us, for either of us, it seems, which is disappointing for me. You know?
Yeah, I was really hoping that it would be something I enjoyed. Like, it looked like something that I would really enjoy. I feel like the game is a pretty solid, like, B,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even like B plus for the right person.
I would say the AI takes it to B minus for me.
That's fair.
Whenever seeing ally AI just stupidly charge into to their deaths is hard to really want to really give a pass on these days, especially a game that have so much vested environmental hazards. It's just you can't have one without and have the other happen. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with me giving it a B and you giving it a B minus, let's move on to what our next Game Club game is going to be.
Yeah, kicking off the current year.
Current year with Steam World Build. This very recently came up on Game Pass. I'm assuming that if you wanted to, you could get it on Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Steam World, it's not even really a series. It's like just its own like world now.
The Steam World universe, maybe?
Yes, the Steam World gaming universe has this really unique charm to it. So it's essentially like Old West meets steampunk, only all robots all the way down.
Yeah.
But they don't act like robots, you know?
Yeah, I do. I like the SteamWorld games that I have played. I liked, and I'm always up for trying out a new building, city builder or management type game, and that's more or less what this is. So,
actually, you're going to be surprised. I've played a bit of it already.
Oh, okay.
I will say this. Oh dear! It appears you caught your dungeon keeper in my city builder.
Oh, interesting. Which that makes sense with the Steam World, Steam World universe, whatever.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to go further on this one, and I have a reason to because uninstall.
Yeah, uninstall.
Wartales. I feel so sad. Another entry on the. I really thought I was going to like this, but list.
Yeah. So, yeah, that'll be our January Game Club Steam World build.
Yeah, Cube is trying to influence us for a future Game Club.
Yep, which I think we should do. Definitely.
We just need to figure out a spot for it.
We need the right month. February is a short month, anyways, and I'm going to be gone for a week in the middle of February.
Yeah, our next long month is April.
We could put it in April. We could bump the April game down to May or a different month. If you want to put it in April, I mean, shit, that's my birthday. My birthday month, so I'd fucking play Baldur's Gate for my birthday.
Now the problem is moving April. May is a short month, I believe. So we would be looking at bumping April all the way back to July. Well,
and because of the...
Yeah, we'll figure this one off air.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of the nature of it, it doesn't really fit a shorter month.
Yeah. April does seem like a really good month to do Baldur's Gate, though, so I'm okay with putting Baldur's Gate in April and us figuring out the rest later. Having a choosing. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of choosing, I'm sitting here looking at the Steam store page like, do I want to buy something?
Yes, but also maybe no. I gotta pay off my credit card after my Christmas gift, Steam Christmas gift buying spree for people, and then some other Christmas stuff. So I'm not buying anything for.
Well, see, the thing is, I waited to to send out some Christmas gifts because paycheck.
Right.
Uh, I kind of got screwed on December because the pay cycle for early December was Thanksgiving week on one of them, and I got 4 days off that week, which was really nice at the time. But whenever my paycheck came up like $300 short,
Yeah.
I got almost like, I would say 2/3 of my normal paycheck. It hurt.
Yeah.
So I had to make priorities.
Well, I probably won't be buying anything that's not a necessity for the next month or two until I pay my credit card off. So
Yeah,
I shan't be buying anything else from the Steam sale this time.
Yeah. Well, for me, I have an interesting situation now. I have Adidas' birthday coming up this month, but I also get 3 paychecks. So, all right.
Yay, triple paychecks. There are pros and cons to being salary versus hourly, but like being a salaried employee, like never having to think about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I can never get overtime, at least not in Tennessee. Like technically, salary people can receive overtime, and in other better states they do, but not in Tennessee. But like I never have to worry about vacation or holidays and stuff like interfering with my income stream.
Yeah, for me, I hit hard at Thanksgiving, so it was basically trying to build back up after that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't destitute, but it hurt.
Yeah. So, technically, we could do a discovery queue, but as I mentioned earlier, I am teetering on being sick. So I think I'd prefer to go ahead and start wrapping up. That way I can head to bed and try to fight off whatever plague has been given to me by either the in-laws or my child.
Oh, God, do you think it's COVID?
Ah, God, I hope not. I would really not like to get COVID.
I mean, we are talking the in-laws.
We are.
Although, considering your father-in-law, it is also possible it's the cooties.
Speaking of COVID, though, like I know I messaged you while I was standing at the pharmacy, but yeah, I was at the pharmacy waiting for meds to pick up my meds, and they were busy, and my meds weren't quite ready, and I was like, yeah, I'll just stand over here to the side. It's fine. She said it was going to be like 5 to 10 minutes. And there were these 2 ladies that had been behind me in line the whole time. And I guess they knew each other. I mean, maybe not, but they were throwing out like names and stuff of people. So I assume that they know each other, probably like they go to church together. But anyways, like they're talking, and the first lady's like, yeah, we got sick and we had COVID, and Mike and his son had it. And, I didn't feel good. So we just took a few days. And then the other lady was like, are you sure it was COVID? It might be the plague. And the first lady's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, the newsman said that, the plague was going around, and that was something that they were trying to convince people that COVID was still real. But they ain't going to convince me. I ain't wearing no mask. And they just like had this conversation in line behind me. And then when COVID lady, or plague lady, whatever, gets up to get her medicine, her card won't swipe. Like, her card keeps erroring out. Like, it's not got any money on it or whatever. Like, it keeps throwing the, like, invalid balance or whatever. And so, like, she's like, I know there's money on this card and it works everywhere else I go. And the cashier's like, the pharmacy tech is like, ma'am, I'm sorry. Like, I believe you, but, it's not accepting your card, so there's nothing I could do. And she had like a whole cart full of groceries. And she's like, this is bullshit. And she just like walks off and leaves her cart of groceries in front of the counter. And that lady's like, her look on her face is like, I don't get paid enough for this shit. And like, absolutely, you don't, pharmacy tech lady, you don't. But yeah, that was my experience today. Speaking of COVID. The two ladies too, like the one who was plague lady, like she looked like what you imagine like a redneck lady talking about this would look like. Like she looked really rough. The other lady was I'm guessing in her 50s, but like she was wearing a floral mask. She seemed really present. And the other lady was like, she just looked bad. You know, it's like that redneck look of like you've got that smoker's complexion and you're not wearing enough clothes. And that's what she looked like, and her teeth were yellow and like messed up looking. So that was another final story. This one not in the Franken content. I didn't think about it earlier because I had messaged you about it, but to talk about it.
I guess I could toss in redneck losing his gun.
Yeah.
So I take the bus to work, all right, and have Anita pick me up on the way home. So, I'm my commute is basically go down to the bus stop, wait for bus to show up, then drink my coffee and listen to podcasts on the bus. Well, guy shows up at the bus stop about 2 or 3 minutes before it shows up. I live at like the end of one of the routes, so whenever the bus comes by, it sits and stays for 10, 15 minutes. Basically synchronizing to the schedule.
Right.
Yeah, so it makes it a little bit easier to be able to catch it, especially on a cold day, and just sit on the bus and chill, right? Well, this guy, he trying to think of a good way to put this. He looked like you took a think generic camouflage hunter's jacket, right?
Yep.
And then you filled it with mashed potatoes. And I'm not talking good mashed potatoes. I'm talking like underhydrated instant mashed potatoes. Kind of lumpy and gloopy, and he talked exactly how you think a redneck talks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposedly friends with the normal bus driver on this route, so goody, right? And he has one volume, and it's fucking 11 when he talks. Exactly what you think, right?
Yep.
So, right before the bus shows up, he also, feels the need to quickly, power smoke a cigarette. He not only has to be loud, he has to stink to high heaven too, right?
Of course. No other way.
Okay, he gets on the bus behind me, and I sat down. I put in my earbuds and tried to ignore him, and he's loud enough that I could hear him clearly over my podcast. Oh joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he starts bitching about losing his gun. All right, Hunter losing his gun. How is this going to work, right? Well, a family friend, I take it. I didn't get the context on this one. Mind you, I'm actively trying to ignore this guy right now. All right? And trying to listen to Tom Scott's podcast, which, by the way, go check that one out. That one's fun.
Yeah. I saw his, his end of...
Yeah, his end of YouTube thing. And,
yeah.
And I didn't realize he did a podcast, so I checked it out today.
I didn't either. I haven't checked it out yet, but I didn't either until I saw the video.
It's basically like a quiz show. Only it's only 4 or 5 questions, and it's people trying to reason out the answer. So one of them was 2 people went to a gala in I'm blanking on where they said it was. One had a white tie and had a marvelous time. The other one wore a black tie and had a terrible time. Why? And they sat and tried to reason out the answer to it. Why did one guy have a really good time and the other one didn't? And why, right? Or another one of the questions from the latest episode is, in 1893, I may have the year slightly off, but it's close enough. New York City had a urgent public works meeting trying to solve a public health hazard that 30 years later, had resolved itself. What was the public health hazard?
Oh, interesting. Payphones. No, I don't know.
1893?
Oh, 1893. I thought you said 1993.
No, 18.
I will, yeah, I don't know. I will have to check that podcast out. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's called lateral thinking. But anyway, going from lateral thinking to no thinking.
Yeah.
This guy, very loud, bitching about his gun, all right? And he loaned it to this guy. And he's talking about, I had this gun since I was 16 years old. It was a family heirloom. And it's like, okay, if it's that important, why did you loan this out, right? And I loaned it to him because he can't have a gun himself because he's a felon. It's like, oh, God. Right?
Yep.
So, turns out this guy loaned a gun to a guy that had been caught with, I don't know how much heroin, and is also hooked on heroin. And yes, there is no plot twist to this story. Where did the gun go?
To buy heroin.
No, to the heroin dealer to get heroin. He didn't even pawn it off. He just gave it up to a dealer.
Straight up trade.
Yes.
Here, have my gun. Well, have my friend's gun.
And he's throwing a big ass fit. Admitting to multiple felonies on camera, I might add, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because, yeah, it is illegal to knowingly provide a firearm to a felon. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you morally or ethically agree with that felons should be or shouldn't be allowed to carry firearms, it is illegal to give a firearm to a felon.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, if he's this lax with his guns, I don't think he should have them.
No, I agree.
But yeah.
Maybe it's a good thing the heroin dealer wound up with the gun. Probably not. That's probably not true. But.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure it'll turn up sooner or later.
Right.
As Exhibit A.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, Rage, where can people find you on any of the internets and socials?
Oh, I'm Caffeine Rage on Twitter. I haven't messed with Blue Sky too much yet. I just kind of thought about that after, you asking me about the socials.
Yep.
I don't really tweet anymore because fuck Elon Musk in particular. Maybe we could maybe we could weaponize Elon Musk. Maybe we could get him pissed off at a particular company and just like, here, buy this company, right?
Yeah. Ruin this.
Here, EA said shit about you. A boy could dream, right?
Yeah, and Twitter has become even more of a cesspool than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, as much as I'm not opposed to the breasts being exposed to my pleasure, like, every time I scroll through my Twitter feed, it's just full of ads for, like, awful, obviously scammy, like, sex-related stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like...
And this is why I do ad block. And I have no issue with that.
I scroll Twitter on my phone a lot.
Well, there's your problem.
You can't ad block there.
At least with that attitude.
Anyways, carry on.
Should I just finish the outro?
I guess you could if you want to. Yeah, finish. Carry on with the story.
Or if you wish to be my friend on Steam, Caffeine Rage over there. And I'll try to do something with Blue Sky in the next week or so. And you've been?
I have been Jared. You can find me on Twitter at JMA4707 and the same on Blue Sky. I don't do as much on the social medias kind of period as I used to. On Blue Sky, I'll post occasionally about like my tabletop or 3D printing stuff, but for the most part, I just observe. But in other places, those are my two main places. Obviously, you can be my friend on Steam or on Discord. Just find me on our Discord channel.
Which, to do that, you could go over to vglpodcast.podbean.com and find a link to that at the top, and you'll be able to join our Discord. Our little wacky corner of the internet, right?
Indeed.
And if you wish to contact us more directly, you can do so vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, game-related topics. You can tweet it to us at VGL Podcast. We do still monitor that, even though, oh boy, it's kind of tough to watch Twitter these days. This is why I try to stay to my feed and not, venture out a little bit more. Whew.
Yeah.
Or if you wish to spread the love, you can find us on your podcatcher of choice. Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this madness possible. You can find out more about that over at patreon.com/VGL Podcast. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kim McLeod. You can find his work over at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.